In the introduction of Don Quixote, Alonso Quixano's obsession with chivalric romance stories turns into insanity when he gives up his idle days and takes on the persona of a knight-errant named Don Quixote. Armed with shabby armor and a homemade helmet, he and his elderly horse Rocinante set off for adventure in the Spanish countryside. He dedicates his career as a knight to a local woman he refers to as Dulcinea del Toboso, despite the fact that he's never spoken to her. In the rising action, Don Quixote acquires a squire, Sancho Panza, a local peasant farmer and not the brightest guy in town. Don Quixote and Sancho Panza defeat the Basque Page and meet a number of interesting people on their adventures. He and Sancho end up in the mountains. Don Quixote decides the best way to show his love for Dulcinea is to perform acts of madness. He sends Sancho Panza to Toboso with a message for Dulcinea, but he's interrupted by Pero Perez and Master Nicholas, a priest and surgeon barber from Don Quixote's hometown. Worried about their friend, they devise a scheme to bring Don Quixote home and cure him of his madness. This plan involves a fake princess, an imaginary giant, and several stories within the story about honor, virtue, and love. Don Quixote vows to serve Princess Micomicona, and Don Quixote is finally delivered home via ox cart. Part 2, which Miguel de Cervantes wrote 10 years later, begins as Don Quixote and Sancho Panza pack their saddlebags for another adventure. They go on more comical adventures together and even learn about the publication of their adventures by a Moorish author. Don Quixote and Sancho Panza take a trip to Montesinos Cave, where the Don dreams of famous knights. Sancho Panza and Don Quixote end up in a castle where the nobility play endless mean-spirited pranks on the pair. Sancho Panza is sent to an island where he becomes a pretty good governor. In the climax, the Knight of the White Moon challenges Don Quixote. If Don Quixote wins, he can kill the other knight. If he loses, he must retire from knight-errantry for a year. He is beaten soundly. In the falling action, Don Quixote decides that he should become a shepherd and adopt the lifestyle found in pastoral romances, falls ill back at home, and renounces knight-errantry and chivalric romances. And in the resolution, Don Quixote dies.